I really enjoy building plastic model kits and messing about with model trains and painting little figures and things like that. But there are some things that really annoy me about model kits. Hello everyone, I'm Matt, this is Model Minutes, and join me for a workbench discussion where I talk about some of the things that really grind my gears about model kits. So over the last few years, since I've been building more models, I've discovered a few things that I don't particularly like about certain kits, and it's not necessarily from all manufacturers. There are some of these things that I'm going to discuss which may apply to some manufacturers more than others, and there are some manufacturers who do better, but again, it's not perfect and it's not necessarily consistent. But with that being said, let's just talk about these things that really bug me. So the first thing that bugs me is if you buy a starter set. So starter sets or gift sets are those sets where you get paints and glues and cement included in the box. And yes, whilst you might be paying a little bit more than you would for a standard kit, you are getting that extra value. But something that really bugs me about these gift sets is the paint that is quite often included. Again, not all manufacturers are guilty of this, but I have experienced on a number of occasions paint pots inside your little sets which are completely solid or dry or not usable or not as consistent as the main range of paints would be from the normal manufacturer. And that really annoys me because let's face it, if you pick up a gift set or a starter set as your first ever kit to build, you think, oh, it's got paint and glue and stuff inside of it, so that's fantastic. You take it home and then it doesn't work. That's your first experience of building model kits. Are you likely to go and get another one? I would probably hazard to say no. I mean, short the hassle of having to get it returned and getting a replacement, or even having to buy more paints, because, if you buy a starter set, those little pots that are in there probably only worth about 50p, if that, whereas a full-size bottle is going to be £2, £3, £4. So you think to yourself, these paints are expensive. But, I mean, on a tangent, obviously you get more out of your bigger bottles of paint and you can do more kits with them. But that as an aside, you go and you have this first experience and your paints are dry, and I mean, what are you supposed to do if you don't know how to rescue them or how to resolve the problem? You think that all kits are like this and it can put you off modeling for good. So that's one of the things that bugs me, is that you get a starter set or a gift set and the paint is no good. I know certain companies, I've spoken to them and they've said that they're improving, but I would like to see in the future that anyone who does a gift set or a starter set, the paints, when you get them out of the packet, they work perfectly first time and they actually match the colour of whatever it is you're supposed to be painting. Another thing, as I've been building kits recently, are ejector pin marks. I don't really care about ejector pin marks on the whole, because I know that they're essential, aren't they? They need to be there as a result of the parts being pushed out of the mold. If you don't have ejector pins, the molding doesn't come out and you don't have your plastic parts. But, and this is what frustrates me, is when those ejector pin marks, so there's these little dents on the plastic because the plastic's still a little bit soft and these pins have left a gap or a hole or a dent of some sort. When these marks are on visible surfaces, a lot of companies now, more modern manufacturers, will try and hide the ejector pins on the back sides of parts so you can't see them, or they'll put them around the part rather than on the part. But there are still manufacturers, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I get the feeling that most are trying to be smart about it now, which is a great change. But there are still some in places I've bought kits and I've gone, why are there ejector pin marks on visible surfaces? Granted, older kits, it's kind of a par for the course, but I will talk about my problem with older kits a little bit later on. So yeah, ejector pin marks, I don't like cleaning them up. I find it boring and tedious, but I would like to not have to deal with that. So with that in mind, where I've just discussed about, ages and stuff, why do a lot of companies not put tooling dates and release dates on their boxes? Actually, I think we probably know the answer to that, is because they probably think they don't really have to, and they are, I don't want to say they're being a bit disingenuous with their information about their kits, but perhaps they're hoping that someone will just pick up a kit and not know that it is a very old model. Like we've seen through my modeling time, I'll hold up a kit and it'll say new across the box and it'll be like a 1960s tooling.
So even though it might have been released last year and it's new to the company, it's not a new tooling at all, which is a little bit misleading. So I want to see from a lot of companies now, well, actually I would say all companies, I would like to see a tooling date so we know the age of the original molding, and a release date for this version that we're currently working on. Granted, some people think it's not the responsibility of the company to tell you the age of their kits, and you should go away and do all of your research. But bearing in mind that you may have lots of new modelers out there who don't know what the age of a kit is, and if an old kit is going to be as good as a new kit, because let's face it, they aren't. 99% of the time, old kits are not necessarily as good as new kits. They don't know about scale mates. They don't know about researching the kits. They don't know about looking for reviews, which tell you, oh, hang on, you might have seen this kit on the shelf. It was £6. Don't get that one in comparison to this one, because that one is much better quality and is like 50 years younger. That one doesn't have good fit. It doesn't have good mold details. It doesn't have good decals. It doesn't have good instructions. You'll struggle with that one. You won't enjoy it. This one you will, but that one's slightly more. So yeah, I think that it's a bit unfair to put the responsibility on the purchaser to have to find out information about your products when you could just put that information on your box. There are some companies out there who do put tooling dates and tooling information and release dates on their boxes, and that's fantastic because that makes it so much more transparent, and it helps build that trust with the company that you're buying the product from. You know, I'm more likely to go to a company who is transparent with their product information than go to a company who are sort of willing to hide it and hope that people will still buy an inferior product. But that's just my opinion. And it's something that I would like to see improved across all model kits as a standard in the future, regardless of which manufacturer they come from. So with that in mind, one more improvement that I would like to see to do with the boxings is inside, I'd like to see the instructions printed in color. I'm not so personally fussed about the step-by-step diagrams because, you know, they don't have to be in color, but if they are, then that's a bonus. But it's the painting instructions. Now, a lot of companies will go and give us color painting instructions, which is great. I get that it's a more of a cost for them, but you know, this is so much more clearer to see than if this was in black and white and just loads of different shades of grey. So I would much prefer to see color painting instructions rather than black and white ones. Granted, it might push the price up a little bit, but I think again it builds on that quality feel with a product and also that level of trust that you have with the company. If you open up a kit from a manufacturer for the first time and you go, oh, this is nice, this looks good, I will consider buying from them again. However, if you open it up, it's confusing, it's badly printed, the instructions don't tell you which colors are which, because you know, how many shades of gray can you use to pick out different colors on your black and white instructions, and you might go, I won't buy from them again, even though they may have much better kits in their range. So yeah, it's about that level of consistency. Talking about the rest of the contents of the kit then, so decals is a bit of a sticky subject for me. I really like certain manufacturers because I find that they use high quality transfers. Usually they're silkscreen printed, the small text is legible, the decal film that they're printed on is really fine, they conform to the details on the plastic kit really well. But not all manufacturers use naturally the same technology or the same level of quality. And I have experienced decals from a number of manufacturers, and there's this inconsistency, isn't there, where they might be thick, they might be papery, they don't conform to the details of the plastic surface, they split when they touch water, so you've had to use another product to try and rescue them, which I've done with a number of different brands, and also the fact that sometimes they're just not particularly legible, even in like larger scales. Small text for stencils and things could just be completely useless and just, you know, blobs rather than actual text. So yeah, decals is something I'd like to see improved on some companies. I would like more consistency across the ranges that we see, but I think again that is maybe a little bit difficult based on the production costs that some companies have. However, with that in mind, if you are retailing your product for a similar price as company B, who have better quality transfers, you know, once you've experienced both of them, who are you going to go for? The company with the lesser quality ones or the company with the better quality ones? Again, this is about competition really, isn't it? It's about making sure that your products are the best that they can be and are the best experience for the modeler. And with that in mind, how else could we improve our kits? Well,
I find it very frustrating when I'm building a plane, because I build a lot of planes, and you don't get a pilot figure. So this is a thing that sometimes kits are designed and they don't have a landing gear raised option, so the wheels can't go up. And if you can't put your landing gear up, then you don't really need a pilot, do you? So you don't need someone to fly it. But if there is a raised option, then there should be a pilot included, in my opinion, because it looks a bit weird having a flying aircraft with no pilot at the controls, unless of course, you know, he's bailed out and the plane's crashing. But that's another thing, actually, is the fact that why not build a kit or design a kit that has a raised and a lowered option? A lot of kits just do lowered rather than raised as well. So again, I'd have lowered and raised options and a pilot included for the raised option, because it just adds that extra value and it just makes it look a bit more sensible. This leads us on to a slight tangent. I've experienced kits from some manufacturers who do have raised landing gear options for the main gear, but not for the rear tail wheel, which doesn't make any sense to me. So without modification, you'd have to cut, like, why do half a job? You've done half a job to design half of the raised option, which just seems bizarre. So again, if you're going to do that, make sure you design your kit appropriately. I get that it was probably to save costs, but then it causes a bit of a headache for us. So yeah, landing gear raised and lowered and a pilot and figure included. And also with that, if you're having a flying model, let's include a display stand. Why not put a display stand in there? There are some kits these days that do have display stands included, and there are kits out there which don't, which is a bit of a disappointment. So you have a flying option, but you can't display it off the ground. I like to display mine flying if that's an option that's available to me. Unfortunately, with a lot of kits, that's not the case. You can sometimes buy display stands separately, and I understand the reason why a lot of companies don't add display stands these days. It's because, you know, only a small percentage perhaps of modelers actually use them, so it's an extra cost for not much return. But if people are buying the kit and there's a stand included, you're still making the sale. I don't think people would necessarily go, I don't want to buy that because there's a stand. They will go, I will buy that, but I won't use the stand. But this will probably push the price up because it's an increased price cost. Although that being said, you know, some companies have designed stands into their kits recently, which has been a nice sort of return. It seems like some of the stuff that we had 30, 40 years ago in, you know, modeling was as a standard, which was like elements of play value and display stands and things. They seem to be coming back a little bit now, which is quite nice to see, but it's not with all manufacturers. So maybe again, more consistency across the board. I think that's pretty much the main things that drive me a bit nuts. I would like to see these things improved in the future. I just want to swing back to the pilot, actually, because I just thought of one more thing. So pilot figures, I understand, you know, that humans, real life humans, are squishy, and we kind of conform to spaces that we need to go into. So like, if I don't know, for example, a Spitfire cockpit might be a little bit more roomy than a BF-109 cockpit because they were notoriously quite small. So a human kind of has to squash themselves into that. Whereas, you know, pilot figures, if you're going to spend money designing a pilot figure to fit inside a cockpit, which is specific to that cockpit, and it actually fit and be perfect to go in there, I can understand that that's going to push the price up. A generic pilot doesn't always fit, but I would much rather have a generic pilot which I have to modify, you know, be it cut the legs off or sand, you know, sides down to fit it into the cockpit, rather than no pilot. So what do you think? What's your thought on that? And I think that's probably the main things that annoy me about model kits. I think if there was one more thing I would add is that I don't have enough time to build all of them or enough money to buy all of the kits that I want, but that's a me problem rather than a kit problem. But yeah, what do you think? Is there anything I've missed that perhaps annoys you about model kits? Let me know. This is a nice little sort of discussion from the workbench, so put your thoughts down in the comments below. And with that, I'm going to call this video here. A massive thank you to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel, allowing me to continue to make videos on a regular basis. If you'd like to join them and find out what the perks that these Model Club members receive are, take a look at the links in the description. There are other ways to help support the channel as well if you'd like to do so, and again, full information is below the video. The best way to support the channel for free, though, is by subscribing with notifications turned on, so that you never miss any modelling uploads like this. Finally, though, from me at the workbench, it's a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.